Evening Cherries fans, and welcome to the latest in the opposition preview shows here on Up the Cherries in all departments. The playoff picture is hotting up, and following the 3-1 win at Dean Court against Middlesbrough, we have put ourselves in a great position. Next up, a visit to Ewood Park to face Blackburn Rovers. To preview the game, I welcome with me from Rovers Chat, Ryan Hildred. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm very well, thanks, Craig. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you, mate. So, Blackburn have had an interesting season so far, where you looked like you would move into the playoff picture, but you've slid down the table. What's been the story since you started the campaign at Dean Court?
Yeah, it's been a horrible season in many respects. So we've had a couple of streaks, and then the season is definitely split into a horror third of the season. So if I just start with the start of the season, started really well. I thought we played well in defeat at Dean Court, obviously when we did lose to Bournemouth on the opening day. And then, the next few games beat Wycombe 5-0, beat Derby 4-0, scoring lots of goals, looking tidy in possession. And you're thinking, yeah, we're looking good this season. We then had a real bad run of form end of November into December. And really took ourselves out of being genuine playoff contenders, I'd say, at that point. But then things seemed to pick up again in January. So it was up and down and up and down. But really, since February, it's been a horror run of form. We're 1 win in 13 games now. And it's just not been good in these last 13 games. And yeah, as you say, we've really slid down the table. Before it was QPR was the first of those games in those 13 games. That was the first defeat in that run of 13. We were only 3 points off the playoffs at that point, and I think 3 points off Bournemouth at that point as well. And it's just been really sliding down, and we are now looking over our shoulder, which sounds crazy, but we are. We're not actually that far above the relegation places when you look. So yeah, it's just been Craig, just a story of, a couple of horrible streaks early on, and then just this really bad run of form now where the wheels have well and truly come off.
But you do possess one of the top strikers in the league in Adam Armstrong. He scored 19 goals this season. It's only bettered by Timo Pukki and Ivan Toney. How impressed have you been with his input?
Yeah, he's also had a season of two halves, really. So he started really well. He got a hat-trick against Wycombe, and he was, involved in everything that we did. He was top goal scorer in the Championship for a while, wasn't he? So everything he did seemed to turn into gold. And he is a striker on his day that can do anything. He can score from outside the box. He's obviously got pace to burn, so can get in behind, and he particularly runs the channels really well. He's actually been unclinical this season, believe it or not. There was a game away at Bristol City, for example, where he had 8 shots, which is just crazy. And we lost that game 1-0. And I think there is an accusation that maybe sometimes he can be a bit too selfish and shouldn't be shooting and things like that. But really, with Rovers' running form, his goals have dried up. He's not been the clinical striker or, semi-clinical striker that we saw earlier on in the season. And, we've got a fear now that it's all going to peter out for him, because there are rumours that he is going to go in the summer. He's only got 1 year left on his contract when the summer comes. And we're now starting to get this nonsense where he's got a niggle, so he's not in the squad. He's not in the squad because he's got this. So I just think now probably he's going to be protecting his hamstring and protecting himself ready for a summer move. And it'll be a shame if it peters out like that, because I've got to say, he is a model professional, and he's a really humble lad. He's been really great for Rovers. He was with us in League One and helped us get out of League One. So it'd be sad if it peters out like that with him not playing many games. But yeah, he's been a really impressive striker for us and really picked up the mantle when Bradley Dack got his first injury. He's the one who rose to the fore and became the main man. Dack's obviously injured again now, and we're probably going to have to cope without Armstrong and Dack next season. So a real transition.
Of course, I was going to mention, of course, he's been injured recently. I think he missed 3 games in a row, and I believe he was injured for the Wycombe game. He did come back for Bristol City, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And as I say, it's just one of these where I think that if his agent is starting to drum up a bit of interest and if he has got a little tweak in his hamstring or anything like that, then he's probably going to just be managing his own body so he doesn't get injured ready for a summer move, which, as I say, would be a shame. But his injury record has been impeccable, I must say. You know, for a striker that is quick, you know, you always see strikers tearing hamstrings or pulling up on hamstrings. And actually, Armstrong's record has been pretty phenomenal. And on our live show yesterday, we did talk about the fact that he is only 23. I'd love to see the stats for how many games he has played as a 23-year-old, because there can't be many more that have played more games than Adam Armstrong, because he just has had this really good run without injuries.
I have seen some rumours flying about. Is it 25 million and it was Newcastle being touted?
Yeah, so Newcastle's an interesting one because we signed him from Newcastle and they've got a 40% sell-on clause on any profit that Rovers make. And with a year left on his deal, I think we're going to do really well to get more than 15 million for Adam Armstrong. So, you know, let's say we sell him for 15 million. We bought him for 1.5. You're talking that Newcastle then get 40% on a 13.5 million sale there, which, you know, that's only about 6, 7, 8 million that's coming Rovers' way there. If we were to sell him to Newcastle, we might be able to just engineer that in our favour so we get more cash rather than more cash going to Newcastle. So that's one I'm watching. And he's obviously a Geordie lad as well. You know, he's from Newcastle. He broke through at Newcastle. I'm sure he'd love to go back there if the deal was right. But there are other clubs sniffing and it'll be intriguing to see where he ends up. But yeah, it's 25. I'd be surprised if we got 25 with a year left on his contract and the fact that he's not been scoring recently either.
It's for these transfer rumours that fly out at this time of year as well, isn't there? We was victim of it last season as well with Fraser, and all the figures that were being mentioned about Wilson. Moving on to the last game he played, which was, and sorry to bring this up, Ryan, against Wickham. What was that game like? Because I'm sure that you guys thought that you would get a result.
Yeah, it's shocking. It was the definite low point of the season, I'm afraid. We had 2 shots. One of them was a 30-yard speculative effort from Joe Rankin-Costello in the first half. And then the second one was a chance for Rothwell, but we struggled to create chances, struggled to have possession. Wickham were more than deserving of their victory. And it was just a really, really bad day at the office for Rovers. And in isolation, in any normal season, you kind of have those, don't you, where you just don't turn up in certain games. But the fact that we are 1 win in 13 and this run of form just gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and we're going to bottom of the table. We've only scored 12 goals all season, only got 4 wins all season. It was just a shockingly bad performance. The final third, we were really terrible. We could just not stick the ball there. We were lumping balls up there. We just weren't getting any kind of possession game going in midfield either. We did have 69% of the possession, but did nothing with it. And we just did not look dangerous, did not look in any way, shape or form an attacking threat. And particularly once Wickham got their goal, they happily just sat back and said, come and break us down. And we did next to nothing to do it. So, yeah, really, really disappointing one, Craig.
And of course, we've spoken about Armstrong in quite some detail. Do tell us a little bit more about the Rovers side.
Yeah, I mean, earlier on in the season, as I say, we were full of attacking intent and attacking threat. So if I just kind of talk like that, if we do turn up on Monday, you know, Joe Rothwell is a player that he's found a position now in this Rovers side. When we first signed him, he was more like a wide midfielder or a number 10 type role, but he's now found a position more as a number 8 role, and that's also his shirt number. He likes to get the ball deep and he can really dribble and drive with that football. And a lot of the Rovers players say that they've never seen someone who's actually quicker when they dribble with the ball than without it. So Joe Rothwell really on his day can be the driving force of Rovers from a deep lying midfield area. So he's great and a really good dribbler. Tyrese Dolan, who you might have seen come on at Dean Court, has really taken everyone by surprise this season because we got him on a free from Preston's academy, and we were not expecting him to do anything this season. You know, he's just a young lad who we thought would just make his way through our academy and then maybe make the first team. We obviously saw him in pre-season and thought, hang on, this kid can play. He came on against Bournemouth, got his first goal in the next game at home to Wickham. And we've not seen as much of him as we would like this season, but he's just got pace, he's got trickery, he's just your atypical winger. Really loves to take people on and really drive and hurt teams. So he's another one to watch out for. And I have to talk about Harvey Elliott, who is not our player, unfortunately. He is Liverpool's. I've got no doubt that this kid is going to start for Liverpool in the future. He'll start for England. 17 years old, just what can you say? He's just got touch, he's got vision, he's got finesse. He's our top, in terms of goal contributions, either assists or goals. He's number one in the club for all of that. And this is a 17-year-old lad coming into the Championship. So he is just a complete footballer. He plays out on that right-hand side, likes to come in on his left. But if he's not getting any joy out there, he will come and try and affect the game and show a real maturity well beyond his years. So those three are the three that I'd really pick out, in terms of trying to hurt you. Defensively, not been great for Rovers this season, if I'm being honest. We've really not been able to get a settled back four. But in recent weeks, even with this run of form, Darragh Lenihan, who is our club captain, he is starting to show some kind of leadership to say, hey, we need to turn ourselves out of this. So, Lenihan on his day is just your atypical Championship centre-back. He'll get stuck in, he'll win headers, but he's just crying out for a good partner alongside him, which at the moment, we've got a lad on loan from Man City, Taylor Harwood-Bellis, who I think might be being linked with Bournemouth as a loan move. I might be wrong in saying that. It might be Brentford rather than Bournemouth, but Harwood-Bellis on loan from Man City. Really good with Lenihan. So yeah, that's really the ones I want to pick out if away from Armstrong.
Of course, with such a talented side though, Ryan, is Rovers fans, is their patience running out with Tony Mowbray now?
Yeah, in short, yes. It's kind of been a bit of a slow burn through the season. So I think at the start of the season, and when we had one of these runs that I spoke about, that kind of November, December run, there were a lot of people at that point saying, the manager's time is up. But there were also a lot of people saying, no, this is a guy who's brought stability. This is a guy who's done a really good job for Rovers. So, let's not pull the plug yet. Then slowly but surely over this run of 1 win in 13, the noises have been getting louder and louder and louder. And it really reached a real peak on Saturday after that Wickham game. On our channel, you see the same names and faces on Rovers Chat, and we love interacting with them. People who I'd not seen say, get rid of the manager, it's time for a change. They, firmly put their flag to that mast on Saturday. So I think the patience has run out. I think, pretty much 99% of the fan base, if not all of it, feel that this is not the manager to get us promoted into the Premier League, if that's the aspiration. And performances on Saturday where, unfortunately, Mowbray spent the whole game sat on the bench. Not all managers are ones that are stood up berating or, shouting at their players, but he spent the whole time on the bench, and there just seemed to be nothing coming from the bench or Mowbray to say, hey, this performance is not acceptable. So it just feels like now Mowbray's demeanour, how the fans are, it just feels like the end of the road now. And we are thinking that a change may come sooner.
And focusing on the game on Monday, how do you think Tony Mowbray is actually going to try and stop us, considering the amount of pressure he is under?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing that we've not seen from Tony Mowbray this season really is changing it up that much. We tried it once away at Barnsley where he went for wing backs and we lost that game. Really, he's been quite rigid to his 4-3-3 formation. He's been quite rigid to playing wide strikers with Sam Gallagher and Ben Brereton. He's not really had a plan B or C or whatever. So I just expect more of the same. He's going to try and play this possession-based football. He'll try, if he can, to do a bit of a higher press onto your back line. He'll try and get Joe Rothwell on the ball, as I say, to drive at you. I can't see any change. Whether that's going to allow us to get the result with the confidence that we're in and the way we're playing at the moment, I don't know. But I don't expect to see anything different. I think we'll try and get hold of the football as we always do. I think we're we're quite high up in the possession stakes this season overall in the Championship. So I just expect more of that. And actually, I'd probably expect Bournemouth to let us have the ball. You know, a lot of teams have sussed out this season, if you let Rovers have the ball, we are not that clinical, particularly at the moment. So if you then take your chance, hit us on the counter-attack and go 1-0 up, unfortunately, the stats for Rovers, when we do go 1-0 down in a game, we don't come back. We lose those games, and that's really disappointing as well this season. So, yeah, I just expect Moby to just, as I say, do more of that possession football, and Bournemouth probably just to say, okay, we're happy for you to do that. We'll get you.
And that was a bit of a contrast to the game earlier on in the season, the first game of the season at Dean Court, because we did go 1-0 up. Rovers pegged us back. Has it just completely gone wrong from that point, and you've lost that ability to get back into games?
I'd say where it really came to the fore is December. So between September and the end of November, we had a couple of those losing streaks, as I say. But games like Watford away, for example, we lost that one 3-1, sorry. But we played really well in defeat. We had possession, we created chances, we missed a penalty, etc., etc. I thought against Bournemouth on the opening day, again in defeat, we played really well in that game as well, made chances. What we've got now, though, and since that December period where we lost those games, we had a mini revival in January, but then February, it's really fallen off a cliff. We're not seeing performances in defeat now. You know, when we're losing, we are losing. And yes, Tony Mowbray might hold up the fact that we only lose games by the odd goal, but that's all the teams need to do. You know, go 1-0 up and, you know, Rovers aren't coming back. So we're not getting battered because those teams are just, you know, saying, well, we've got the lead now, let's just sit it out, and Rovers invariably aren't going to come back. So, yeah, it's not been since the Bournemouth game where it's fallen. It's that December period where we were looking like we were going to make a playoff charge, didn't get those results, went through Christmas, didn't get the results, and then, yeah, January was just a nice surprise, really. And this form you can probably pin back to December, you know, not just February, it's right back to December.
What do you make of Bournemouth's season? Because, of course, we've had the change. So right at the start of the season, we had Jason Tyndall in charge, and now Jonathan Woodgate's taking the mantle after a terrible January period. What do you make of our season so far? And do you think that we really should be in the top two and fighting for those automatics?
Hopefully I don't offend your fans on this channel. No, I don't think you should be in the top two. When I thought about this season, I thought Bournemouth would have the season like you're having, actually. I fancied Norwich and Watford to be strong in coming down, but it just felt like Bournemouth were, you know, Eddie Howe going, that kind of magic journey that you'd been on with Eddie Howe. Just felt like a lot was going on behind the scenes and a lot going on at Bournemouth, which might just impact your season, and you kind of will be going for playoffs rather than automatic. So you're having the season that I expected you to have, most certainly. You absolutely should be in the playoffs, though, because I think, unfortunately for everyone else, teams getting relegated from the Premier League now are really strong in terms of the squads they've got and the money that they can dispose. So minimum expectation really for Bournemouth should be the playoffs. And I think Barnsley and Reading are proving to everyone else that actually there's an opportunity there to make the playoffs as well. So I do expect Bournemouth to make the playoffs, and that's the season I was expecting you to have. Yeah, it's obviously been unfortunate with the change of manager halfway through. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, we have seen number twos go and do the managerial role well, but sadly for Tyndall, it didn't work that way. Woodgate, is he the man to get you promoted? If I had to really pin myself to that, I don't think he is. I think he did an all right job at Middlesbrough, but I just fancy someone like Thomas Frank or Steve Cooper. You know, if you're playing them in the playoffs, if you've got them in a final, I just think they're going to outfox him. And you can play this clip back when Bournemouth are promoted in May and ram it down my throat. But I do just wonder if he'd get outfoxed in a playoff final if he did get to the playoffs. But I do think you'll make the playoffs. I think you'll get in there. I think you're looking strong now towards the end of the season.
You do make a very good point, though, with Thomas Frank especially. Of course, he got them to the playoff finals at Brentford last season. And the wheels come off against Fulham. Maybe with that bit of experience, then, you know, Brentford is a team that I highlight that we don't really want to face at Wembley.
Yeah, that's right. Well, maybe you'll get them in 2 legs, depending on where you come. So you might get them.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're having the season I expected. It just felt like, as I say, some players leaving, loyal servants that you've had at the club who you're just needing to recycle a bit. I didn't expect you to be in those automatic positions, but absolutely you are where I thought you'd be.
I'm going to put you on the spot now, Ryan. How do you think it's going to go on Monday?
It's our form is just, it's not good, is it? And I think Bournemouth, we're getting to the business end of the season now, where if Bournemouth are going to make playoffs, you've got to be coming to places like Ewood Park and getting the results, particularly with the run of form that we're in. I think Bournemouth's tails are up. I think you're going to come and, really be confident about getting the result. And I'm not feeling optimistic, but I can't predict us to lose. So I'm going to predict us optimistically to draw. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw, but I do think it's going to be a difficult game for Rovers. I just think it's 2 teams in opposite form at the moment, and we need to turn it around somehow. And I think it's the game after your game, actually, that we're targeting a game. Derby at home, we've got after Bournemouth. That's the one where we need to really get a result. Be a nice surprise if we do it on Monday, of course, but a draw, optimistic draw.
No, I respect that, Ryan. Well, just very quickly before you go, do tell everybody how to find Rovers Chat if they are interested.
Yeah, definitely. So our Twitter handle is roverschat_. So that's how you can find us. We're just a fan-run site. We started off with lots of website content, particularly around the League One season when we got promoted 3 or 4 seasons ago. And we've really just evolved into the YouTube and the video content. So we've got live watch-alongs, live post-match streams. I do a show very similar to this one, Craig, with opposition fans. We've got Andy, who does a load of statistical stuff. So we've got a good mix of stuff. And then a podcast as well, which started everything off. So yeah, at roverschat_ is where you can find us.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Ryan. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No worries. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem at all, mate.
Cheers, Craig.
And thank you, everybody, for joining me on this opposition preview. Do remember to hit the like, subscribe buttons. Until the next video, up the cherries. I'll see you then.